So welcome to Oxford. It's a hotbed of revolution. So this is a very local campaign, Save Port Meadow campaign, and if you have a chance to walk that way, it's about 10 minutes, you'd find it. It's a beautiful, it's a beautiful historic meadow, listed in the Doomsday Book. It's got every possible environmental protection on it, heritage site, God knows what else. And this is a planning fight. So this is a planning campaign. You know, it doesn't get more local, if you like, than a good old-fashioned planning fight, community against the city. So, oh, maybe I go the other way. I've lost my slides.
You have to do it on the...
Oh, do I?
Yeah, on the thing.
But it's not here now.
We'll get it back.
Oh, fab. Okay, thank you. Okay, just go?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is Port Meadow, or was Port Meadow, beautiful, as I said. Dreaming spires, views of the dreaming spires, another view of Port Meadow. But this is what happened, is that the university built these accommodation blocks along the side of Port Meadow, blocking the views of the spires, the dreaming spires. So, and here's a close. If it doesn't look bad enough, this is a close-up. Okay, so this meadow is, you know, sort of the lung of the city. It's called the jewel of the city. It's anyway. A lot of people got very angry about it because they just came up, and so there's a whole question about how did this happen? How did the planning process allow that to happen? Got planning permission? What happened with the consultation? Loads of reasons, you know, how did the university think that was a good idea? How did the city council ever approve it? And so on. By the time the campaign started, they'd been built, because the first the community knew about it was seeing these things come up. So what happened at the very beginning was, oh no, let me just headlines and then we'll get into it. So impact. We're in our third year as a campaign. It's volunteer led, but this is what we've won so far. So we had a judicial review. We took it to court, judicial review of the council decision. We lost that, but the point of the judicial review was to win a retrospective environmental impact assessment. It's only the second time in the country that an environmental impact assessment has been demanded retrospectively after the buildings have been built. Normally they're done beforehand. So we won an environmental impact assessment after the fact. Come on to that. The City Council realised that they'd completely messed up and launched their own independent review of their planning processes, which have transformed planning in this city. So, you know, the legacy, every major development that's reported in this city refers to Castle Mill, which is this building, as sort of, we got to avoid a Castle Mill. So we haven't won what we want, I'll come on to that in a minute, but it's changed that. When the environmental impact assessment was published, we mobilised people to comment on the plan. There was one option, which is take one floor off. Okay, I've given it away. That's what we're after, one floor off, lower the height. And we had 95% of people who commented in favour of that option. That sounds good. More importantly, actually, it was a record number of people who had ever commented on a planning application, 900 people. The University Governing Parliament had a debate just a couple of months ago on it. And it has power, this congregation. Back in the 80s, they decided not to give Margaret Thatcher an honorary degree, for example, because they didn't like what she was doing on education policy. So it had power. So we forced a debate there. We lost it. But, you know, we had the debate. The university has set aside £6 million already as a budget to mitigate the impact of these buildings. So what they're offering is still rubbish and not acceptable, but there is already £6 million on the table that they're prepared to spend, which wouldn't have been there if we hadn't won the campaign or hadn't done this. We've engaged the politics and the media, the politicians and media pretty well, and we've raised £50,000. So that, in terms of the integration of fundraising and campaigning, that's sort of the impact. And then here's some numbers. So remember, £50,000 raised. I have 1,200 email supporters. So my list is 1,200, that's all. And we have 1,200 friends on Facebook. That's all. We started that with a petition. The second petition, we had a 60% response rate. These are just fun. Of our 1,200, 65% are active. So 65% of people have done something since they signed up to the email list. Okay? 35% have given a gift. For every email sent, I've raised 60p. Every email. So over 2.5 years now, I have sent out 66 emails. Okay, so that's averaging just short of 3 a month emails. So, and my list is 1,200 now, but it started at 400. So as it's built up, I reckon I've sent about 50,000 emails. Yeah? And I've raised 60p an email. Does that work, roughly? So there you go. We've done door drops. So it's not just online. This is integrated. We've used our email list to recruit volunteers who then delivered newsletters door-to-door, 8,000 door-to-door leaflets 3 times. Raised money, 5-to-1 return on investment. You don't see that for blood nor money in the charity world these days, so that's pretty good. 8% donation response rate to my email. I hope that you think that's good. I think that's pretty good. Is that pretty good? 8%? That's not, yeah? 8% response, that's actual donation.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's pretty good, yeah? And then a free-form email response to the council leader, 9%. So this was like, here's the council leader. Don't just do this text, write to him. 9%. And we know that because his office administrator told us how many he'd received. So, because we couldn't track it through our system, so we just said, oh, how many did you get? It's an accountable politician, so he told us. So we worked that back and said, oh, okay, 9%. So that is free form. They had to write it themselves. I think that's pretty impressive too. Okay, so my base is motivated and angry and very involved and engaged, so they do it all, but we'll go into that. Okay, so that's, and then these are the things that we're sort of going to cover a little bit. So I think these are the headlines. It's a cause people care about. That's a key driver of, I think, the success we've had. A story to tell. We have a story to tell. One is Safe Port Meadow, and the second message is 1 floor off. Demanded from the outset a reduction in height of these buildings. Completely pie in the sky, everybody seems to think. 3 years on, we're still shouting about it, and we're still, you know. And I think this is key for the campaign, is the episodes, which I'll come on and explain. But in 3 years, we've had episodes, we've had different story arcs that speak to the same thing. So the main story, Save Port Meadow, reduce the height of the buildings, is the one thing. But there have been episodes of the campaign that have galvanised our action and focused our action at different stages. So that's very key. Villains. We have villains. Okay, a campaign, I'm sure I'm speaking to the converted, you know this, but if you don't have a villain, you don't have a campaign. You've got to beat somebody up, because that is where the traction is. Am I wrong? Anybody not get that point? Good. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with charities where they do not have a villain in their campaign. I said, well, what do you know, make the world a better place. You need a villain, okay? And opportunism. So we're small with volunteers, we've been fleet of foot, but we've taken opportunities to be fast and do stuff when we were presented with opportunities. So I think that's also, I think these are the things that I wanted to share most, because I've worked in national, international charities, I've done international fundraising and campaigning, and then I brought what I've learnt to this small local campaign. I can't tell you anything about, well, maybe to Ross, but about cheap, free tools, which is what we've used. But these, I think, are the things that when I look at big national charity campaigns, you're still rubbish at. A lot of them are still rubbish at. So how do you nail the framing of your campaign? And then these are the basics, which even with free tools and as a volunteer, I did. Knowing the audience, they all live around here in North Oxford. They're mostly elderly. They don't do they don't do Twitter. I know I've learnt that, but they do email. Okay, so reaching your audience, well, they're local, door drops, as well as email. Engaging your audience, finding reasons to give, data. I can't tell you how much data work I've done just on a Gmail account. Absolutely phenomenal. And then relevant communication. So these are sort of basics, and these are the things that I think, main themes that I wanted to cover. Okay so far? All right. So here are the tools, all free, and there were more. So the campaign started with a Care2 petition. That's how it started. We had over 3,000 people who signed that petition of anger right at the beginning. The campaign group set up a WordPress website for information. Bit of a waste of time in the end, but it sort of felt like the right thing to do at the time. Just Giving. Just Giving, there you go. A Gmail account. We have Facebook, and we had Twitter. Okay, so Twitter was a player, I don't do much. More effort, frankly, than it's been worth, is my experience. A small campaign, it's like, what do you get? I got my first donation 3 weeks ago that I could absolutely track back to a tweet. It was brilliant, £10. Yay! So that's it. And then I've done other things. So I've used Poll Daddy just for fun several times. That was good, free, just little polls offering people things to do. So out of this we shut down. So the way it worked was we had the petition. We needed to raise money when we made the decision we wanted to go to judicial review. So we needed money. And that's when I joined the campaign. How do we raise £10,000 in no time at all? Thought, well, we've got 3,000 names. We have to ask them. Well, you can't do that through Care2. So what we had to do was, with our one shot, we had one shot of emailing this list. That's what you were allowed at the time. We asked them to sign up to our Gmail account. That was the ask. So if you want to stay involved in the campaign, email saveportmeadow@gmail.com. Thank you very much. It's pretty much the deal. And we had 450 people did that. Okay, so bang, now I have an email list of 450 people. We emailed them, raised £10,000 in a week, just off them. Not strictly true. We also, CPRE, our local charity, mailed their list, and only a couple of grand was off them. But basically, that was it. People were pent up and they were angry. We said, we need £10,000 to go to court, give, and they did. Phenomenal. So that was done. This then mattered. So these were the two, Gmail and Just Giving. Save Port Meadow was, as I said, it's just in the background and filtered away. Facebook has built up Spring. Twitter was a waste of time. So there you go. So Gmail was brilliant, has been great. So this has become an email campaign with Facebook fun. We have a cheeky, not rude really, but quite a cheeky tone there. We tease the council and the university remorselessly, because that's the job, people like it. The Vice-Chancellor of the University has just taken up a position in New York University, and we photoshopped these buildings onto a photo of the Statue of Liberty. We posted that, people loved it. Okay, so these are our free tools, and that's sort of how we did it. But it's a community, so this is the easy stuff. So Fates, the first summer, we had Fates, anything like that, we had a stall and we signed up people for the petition, and we'd got their email. All we wanted was the email addresses. So we did that. The door drops, we started, this is 2 versions, but we created this thing that had a little window poster, donation form, Save Port Meadow, different messages. So University and Council undo this harm, and then more recently, 1 floor off. So we've used door drops. This is the only thing we've spent money on. Once we'd raised some money, printing these leaflets, and we always made a return on investment on the money that we then spent on it. Okay, and we recruited volunteers to deliver them. So of the 1,200 email, slightly out of date, but of the 1,200 email, this is where they came from. So the bulk at the time, about a third of them came through the Care2 conversion. CPRE, the local charity, environmental charity, they mailed their list, their own supporters, and we got a few from that. This is how many we recruited in real life at Fates. Okay, this is how we got on door drops, through posting through letterboxes. We had a second pop at Care. Sorry, yes?
Can I ask how you know the source of meetings, Fates and door drops?
Because the meetings and Fates, they're handwritten on paper, and we collected them and then imported them.
Yes.
Yeah. And the door drops, similarly, they had to send it back,
Right.
or they went online
Yeah.
to give money on Just Giving and left their email address, and I knew that that was, timing-wise, that was the trigger.
So timing was the...
Timing was the measure, yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of patchwork, but basically, yeah. And then this bit is organic. This is over 2.5 years, just people who've emailed in and said, can I join your email account, your campaign? So that's how it's grown, where they've come from. This is sort of a email list. So this is where the rules, it's just Gmail. They've just changed it, actually, which I'm a bit disappointed about. But groups, I've got flags on everything. I know we have one donor who's given 10 gifts. Got 10 gifts. So I have flags for the number of gifts. I have flags for different actions when I can track them. I have flags if they're alumni of the university. I have about 40 different flags that I've put on people as I've data captured them, as they've come in. Okay, so I know. And then the emails are, as I said, 2 or 3 a month. And they're all sort of fairly long subject lines, mostly with verbs for action. Yeah, so all of the data has been held in the Gmail account, in the contacts list, yeah, with groups. And the only thing that's annoying me now is that I've got so many, 1,200, that it's more than I'm allowed to send in 1 week. So I have to send it in 3 versions. I'm sure there are better ways of doing it, but I have to send my emails out in 3 tranches. And the 3rd one I have to do the next day, because after I've done 2, they block me. So I'm blocked for 24 hours. So I'm sure there's a solution. I'm not a techie and I haven't been bothered to work it out, but there you go. Okay, so we have baddies, so villains. I told you about villains. The university is a villain, and this was, it's a proper campaign. So we do media, we've done freedom of information requests, we've got loads of data on everything that's been going on. Freedom of information, we found that this is the planning application, for example, where it says here, this is question 6 on the planning form, that the council's planning official signed, Mr. Crofton Briggs, we know him well, is the development of more than local significance proposed for a particularly environmentally sensitive location or gives rise to unusually complex and potentially hazard environmental effects. Okay, I told you at the beginning, this is a national heritage site, a site of scientific special interest. It has every protection going, and he ticked no. It is not. Okay. Therefore, is an environmental impact assessment required? No, it is not. This was his chance to say, yes, we need an EIA. So here's the form. And then his summary comments, it says the impacts are not significant. Okay, impacts are not significant. So the university, the city council signed it off. The councils signed it off with bad information. You know, they were misled by their own officials. And then the university also lied on their application form. You're not allowed to say lie except in a group of friends. But they made mistakes on their application form and failed to consult the community. So 2 villains, council and university. You can imagine in this city, you know, the university, it's big baddies really to be up against. Okay, so we went to court, the judicial review. This was the High Court, very nice. We have had over 12 front pages on the local weekly paper. This is a weekly paper. Okay, so say in the last year and a half, there have been about 100 front pages, and we've had 12 or 15 front pages on our campaign. So we've been the dominant story in Oxford for the last 2.5 years. It's very good. And this is where opportunism comes in. So a couple of years ago, has anyone heard of the Carbuncle Cup? It's awarded every year. It's awarded every year to the ugliest building of the year. It's awarded by architects, so it's judged by architects. Fabulous. Okay, well, what happens is that they want nominations. So what would you do if they were wanting nominations? Well, we emailed our list and said, if you'd like to nominate Castle Mill, here's the link. It's the most nominations the Carbuncle Cup has ever had, was for this building. Okay, so as a consequence of that, it was automatically made it to the shortlist, the final list, as a publicly voted for shortlisted candidate. Okay, and then the Guardian which covers it every year. They had a poll, said, you can vote. So which do you think is the ugliest building? Well, what would you do? So we sent the link to our supporters and said, well, look, we won 44% of the vote on The Guardian. It's just, we won 44%.
That's really interesting, because I think there's been a few sessions on how can we keep people engaged if we haven't got a petition for them to sign.
This is opportunism. This is opportunism. So 44%, we did that. And we didn't win the final thing because it was the architects judged the final thing, but we came second. But this was covered in the Sunday Times, it was in the Guardian, it was on the BBC, and so we had to our armoury the second ugliest building in the country that the university has been responsible for. Okay. We had a beer made, so one of our volunteers, they'll do anything. Somebody wanted to make badges, off you go. Somebody said, I know people at the local brewery, what if we made a Port Meadow beer? Do it. So the first summer we had Save Port Meadow beer sold in all the local pubs. We made 750 quid. Sold in all the pubs. Fabulous. Local press, brilliant. Oh, here's another opportunism. So we had Nick Bowles, who is a graduate of Oxford University. He was then the planning minister. He came to Oxford at the invitation of the local. You have to know Oxford, this part of Oxford is a Lib Dem Tory marginal. Very tight, has been very tight. Next year, I don't think it will be. Tories will wipe it, because, but well, who's to say? Anyway, so the Tory MP invited Nick Bowles to come and see, and he was absolutely outraged. So it's like, out of nowhere, we didn't know he was coming. We had Nick Bowles, the planning minister, saying, you should be ashamed, University and City Council. This is the worst example of planning I have seen in 10 years as a Member of Parliament. Whoa, okay, so that was fantastic. And then the local paper did a vote. Is Nick Bowles right? Should Oxford City and a university apologise? Well, 81% of readers said yes. Just an opportunity to say, there's a vote going, guys. It got better. So what happened next was the leader of the council went on Oxford Radio and said this in an interview. He said, it's difficult to see precisely what's getting people so exercised. What would you do? Well, we gave our base his email address and said, well, you might want to tell him. And here's the email address. Here's the email. There's still time for you to write to Councillor Bob Price. See what others have told him. So we did this feedback loop because people would copy in their emails to him. So we said, here's what some others have told him. Why I'm so exercised about Port Meadow? It's simple. Boom, boom, boom. The buildings are phenomenally ugly. Boom, boom. So we did that sort of classic community building feedback loop. Same with our door drops. We quoted back to supporters what others were saying to say, people like you are doing this already, so get on board. We put quotes on our leaflets that went through letterboxes, and we fed back feedback to our supporters. We posted on Facebook letters from supporters onto our Facebook page so that we're always feeding back to our base what others were saying, to making it really normalising who was involved and what people are doing. Okay, so that was about opportunism. This whole bit of our campaign was opportunistic. So if you like, when I said that there were episodes, the first episode was raising the money for the judicial review to go to court. We needed the money to go to court. Then we won the environmental impact assessment. It took over a year for that to be delivered. In the meantime, we were really worried about momentum. In the meantime, the City Council did its independent review on its planning processes. So we had a whole episode of engaging with the City Council on that, which of course we said was a whitewash. Of course you have to. So that was that. Then out of nowhere, Nick Bowles did this. So we had a whole opportunistic campaign around beating up on the city leader. Then later, the environmental impact assessment was published, and so there's a whole consultation process that we engaged with. And then just recently, in the last couple of months, the university have had their congregation debate. So you can see there are different episodes where we've been able to engage our supporters around a framed mini campaign within the campaign that has allowed us to sustain it. We've played the politics. Okay, it's a Labour council, Labour-dominated council. It's a Tory-held seat, but it's a very strong marginal. So the local MP, Nicola Blackwood got Nick Bowles down. So there's Nick Bowles tweeting about it. Thanks to Nicola Blackwood for showing me the prison-like Oxford University development that looms over Port Meadow. Okay, he said it was like the Maze prison in Northern Ireland. Okay, and then here is the local Lib Dem gang. So this is the only Lib Dem member of MEP left now. I've forgotten her name. Catherine Bearder, but she represents South East. Layla Moran, who's the local parliamentary candidate for the Lib Dems, and he's a chair, I think, of the local Lib Dems. But they have, in all the local campaigns, this is such a hot issue that it came up election after election, and they've both talked relentlessly about Save Port Meadow. And it's been in their interest, of course, because it's a Labour council. So we've been quite happy to feed them everything to embarrass the council. And then when there was the election, the councillor who was responsible for planning was thrown out by his own party. It was such an embarrassment that they did not reinstate him in his planning role. So here we have it. Planning council, this is our own tweet, mine. Planning council bites the dust, and this was a quote we were given: "The most sustained and well-organised planning protest Oxford has seen in living memory." That was the local paper gave us that credit. So that was a little scalp that we're happy with. Moments. So this is about opportunistic moments. 2 years on, we had nothing really to achieve, but the buildings are still there. They're occupied by students. This is a long haul. So 2 years on, we went out to our base and said, 2 years of support, thank you very much. Will you come out on Sunday for a group photo? And we had 150 people turn out for a group photo, which then the local paper covered as an anniversary story. So that was just creating a moment of engagement and involvement, and then media hooks. And I think that the media thing is really interesting because it's all local. We've been in the paper just about every week for 2 years in one way or another. Sometimes front page, sometimes not. And letters. We have dominated the letters pages in the weekly paper for months and months and months. And then the part of the feedback loop with supporters is the emails include the links to all of those stories. We just don't assume that people read the local paper. We feed them the links to any press coverage at all. And I know that charities tend not to do that very much. They tend to guide people to their press statement on their website. It's an absolute disaster. It's really good to show that you're in the mainstream news and you're basically getting third-party endorsement by being in mainstream news. So the emails are peppered with, here's the letter, here's the story, here's the link, we were in The Guardian, we were on TV South News. Okay, and here's an update. We were very transparent and we showed where we spent the money. So a year on, we showed where we spent the money. So 60% of our spend went on judicial review legal costs. And then this bit, another 15% went on the environmental impact assessment legal costs. So 75% of money went on legal costs. Who gives money for legal fees? Really, they don't. But this is it's about the campaign. Fundraising, we spent 5% on fundraising. And then 10% was in the bank when I did this chart, and 10% was gift aid still to claim. So we still had sort of 20% available to us. But the point here was feedback. We reflect, you gave us money, this is how we spent it. It's classic. You do feedback. And this is sort of practical. I'm going to wrap up soon. Sorry, this is taking longer than I hoped. But I hope it's all useful. So this is sort of a chart of, I made this up after the fact, as you would, but this is the money by month as it came in, which shows where there are key peaks. And this is the cumulative money and how it grew, okay, up to 43,000 in cash, and then seven grand in gift aid takes it to 50. But this is sort of the first email. This is an appeal to CPRE's list. This is a door drop. Here's an email. This is Christmas email. How about that? We did a Christmas appeal. I've no need for the money, but it's Christmas. Boom. Door drop. Boom. Email. Summer. Boom. Door drop. Another door drop. So I've done 3 door drops, as you see, newsletters, and a little email. Last week I got 450 quid. Okay, one 400 gift, one £400 gift, and a £50 gift. All I'd done in my email was a little line saying, Thanks to those of you who've been topping up our fund, much appreciated. It's the only mention of money. And I got 2 whopping gifts, great. And then this top line is the 4 major campaign actions in the phases. And the rest are just illustrative. There were many more than that. But these are things like, we did a poll, Daddy, on, let's give it a nickname. We had nothing to say for months, a couple of months while we were waiting. So let's do a nickname poll. Get people to vote for the best nickname for the buildings. I can't even remember what won. It was so frivolous. But then these are the little actions that we had going along. Email the council leader, email the university, come out to an event. We've got a public meeting. We've had quite a few public meetings. Little demo here. Actions all the way through. So here we go. Top 10 tips, I would say. Story, goals, actions, and chapters. So chunking it into episodes so that you've got arcs and there's something extra to, what's the next bit? Understanding your audience and motivations. I know that's basic 101, but I think it's key. Aligning actions to story moments. So, you have to take opportunities, you have to see when your moments are and then make sure that you're really gunning an action that makes sense. Engagement on and offline. I know that, again, this is maybe easy for a local campaign, but online tools, digital is just a channel and people want to do stuff in the real world. So how do you cross the barrier and get people to do in and out? You tell them that you're going to be at a fete, so come and visit the stall, all those sort of things. Come to a public meeting. Opportunism and riding waves and making your luck. We made a story out of our 2nd anniversary by doing a photo op. That's all we did. Conversational tone. I write every email. I sign every email. People know it's me. They write to me. Unfortunately, they think I am the campaign. They think I'm the leader of the campaign because I'm the name on the emails. And there are a dozen other people who do the freedom of information, do the press work, and do the engagement with the council. The point, though, is that they know a name. I have a tone. I'm sarcastic. I'm sometimes witty. I'm sometimes cruel. But I'm also always very informative. Yeah, and that's the feedback we've got. So very personal and conversational. This is sort of the emails. If I showed you the emails, sometimes they at the longest have been sort of 2 A4 pages when I've written them out and then transferred them into email. Bloody long, but lots of information. Email over social media. I know my base. Okay, but it's also about action, and I have to say I'm a skeptic around Facebook and Twitter about driving action. Facebook has been great for posting fun stuff and updates on what's going on, but really it's impossible to judge what action has come from that. Email is what's driven our actions. Data, taking the time to do it, even though it's just all on Gmail, and filling that all in. The community and feedback loop that I mentioned, letting people know. And then capacity and realism. So this is also about organisational focus. What capacity have you got and what can you really hope to achieve? So, you're asking about fights, fights with myself. No, I haven't had fights with myself, but we've been very focused that our campaign goal is reducing the height of the buildings. And how do we do that? There's members of the group whose passion is about the badger set, and well, we're not going to talk about the badger set because that isn't going to help reduce the height. Others have been talking about contamination risk. So, well, that's important, but it's not going to help reduce the height. And then members of the campaign have come and said, oh, what about this planning issue over here? It's not our fight. So we've had to be very, very disciplined, said this is our fight and this is our message. So we've been really clear on what we can do and what we can't. There we go.